My name's Dustry. I run Valley County Trappers up in McCall. I'm going to put on a demo for you for bobcats. If there's any questions, please answer or call, let me know what you guys have. So, I'm from McCall. I do quite a bit of snow bobcat trapping on my wolf lines. From McCall, I usually drop elevation down to where the snow's not so deep, instead of 4 or 5 feet deep and shoveling off bobcat. I already got enough with wolves, so I usually drop elevation. I usually trap out of my truck for bobcats or off the razor. This is all I carry. When I walk up these drainages, it's all I'm carrying. I could throw 4 or 5 traps in there. Bridger number 3s is all I use. That's all I got in my whole fleet. That's all I run is bridgers. If you're gonna walk up a draw, don't go up there just to set one trap or one cubby, because those cats might not like that one cubby or that one set or that smell or that smell. When I walk up a draw, I'm setting 4 to 5 traps every single time. I don't care if it's not really a good spots, I'm still gonna make them in that draw. So this is what I run. I set them up just like this, all together, throw them in my bag and throw 5 in there. Swivel, I run straight to 7x7 cable, and then I just put I got wire, so I just wire my tractor right to my drag, just like that. Everything's together, you're not stumbling trying to put stuff together. And when you're done at the end of the year, the ones that don't get caught or don't get used, you just roll them right back up and throw them in your good box. Bridger number 3, 4 coiled offsets, all I ever use. It seems to protect their feet a lot better, mostly if you got them laminated. I do have quite a few laminated ones. Just a bigger pattern on their foot, so you're not cutting their skin. That's what I use for bobcats. So I usually use about 6 foot of cable, and I just right to my anchor like that. I usually find a stick and I'll jab it behind my cubby set, and I usually hang my attractor right above the trap, right in front of the cubby set. So it'll be like that. All my cubby sets, I like this one, like a cubby set. I have a lot of times I'll have bobcats that will go buy my cubby set and not commit. That's when you pull out your other one, and you always have a backup, a blind set. Just because you got that, you think they're going to go into it, doesn't mean they're going to go into it. But if you have a backup set, so when they leave that, so if they come up to the set, if they go left or right, you're going to get them in a blind set. I have a tractor on this one, but I'd put this one right here. So if they decide they don't commit to your cubby set, as soon as they leave, like this is a rock wall, they come up to the cubby set, they don't commit, and they start walking down the wall, you're going to get them in a blind set. Because a lot of the times that I've noticed, I catch a few in cubby sets, but a lot of them are in my blind sets, leaving my cubby sets. So
do you use bait inside your cubby?
I do. I usually just carry a couple little things. I make my own lure. I use all the female cats that I end up getting. I usually make lure for them, and then I just have gland. Bobcat pee. So like in the back of my coveys, I usually have cotton balls or something like that. I usually will stick that in the back. Make it a tractor. Whoop. And I don't know, I'm kind of weird about it where I put my pee. A lot of the times I'll put it on the left-hand side, right on this side of the trap. And all your glands and lures and baits, I don't really use much bait. Most of mine is lure and glands. If I do use bait, it's beaver. But like all your glands and lures, you want them on the inside of your cubby. Don't ever put them on the outside, because they'll be out here smelling and not committing. And I always, all my lures and glands, I usually put them in the inside, about that far inside your cubby, so they have to take that step to put their nose in there to smell the smells. If you got them out here, they're just going to smell out here, you know. You want to pinpoint all your smells inside the cubby. I usually mix it up. I'll put 2 or 3 different lures in there, beaver caster, some of my lure, and pee on the left-hand side. That's how I do all my cubby sets. So, attractors, I don't think it really matters where you put them. You can have them on the left-hand side, you can have them out here. All that's doing is getting the cats to the point. And soon, cats have a better nose than you think. As soon as you get them so close to a set, most likely they're gonna smell it. Mostly if you keep every check, you know, putting a little bit of urine on there, put a little urine on there, keep it going. Any questions?
There's a guy up north that does that, but the first time I saw a cubby set when he's up there in Idaho, he uses these long springs. He doesn't bury them. He puts them on top of the snow. Like the cubby is the beaver meat on a tree, but the cat can walk in the cubby, and he says the cat steps on the trap, so he doesn't bother burying them. Just
none of my traps are buried. They're all exposed. All you have to do is have a nice stepping stick in front of the trap, so when it's open, all they have to do is step. As soon as they step, they're smelling your gland lure and all your scents on the left-hand side. You just want to put your lures and everything far enough to where he has to put his head here before he steps on the trap. Don't put your lures out here on the edge, because he'll stand here and smell it. So you want to put everything back to where they have to take that step to put their head, you know, somewhat closer into the cubby.
how often do you re-lure?
I usually do it about every 3 weeks. But every check, I'm walking by with cat pee. So I keep them active. You know, that smell of another cat there, you know, they're going to go check it out. Mostly, you know, later in the season when they start, you know, looking for mates, they'll start wandering. They smell another cat, they're going to go check it out. So,
how far from the opening do you like the back of the cubby? That deep?
I have cubbies, you know, I usually do about 18 inches to the back of the cubby. I don't make these big old gnarly cubbies that look like a kid's fort. All of my cubbies, this is actually big for my cubby. Most of my cubbies are like this big. They're small, they're natural, you know. When I see a big cubby, it's like overwhelming, I think, you know. It's not natural to them.
These cats, though, he has these big cubbies, and they walk inside the cubby and walk around and get that beaver meat. And I'm like, yeah, that's the cat is actually inside the whole cat, and he's walking up because he puts 2 traps inside the cubby. And he figures, well, it's going to step on one of them.
Yeah, all of my cubbies, all of my sets are just like this. A lot of my cubbies are actually rock. I'm in a real steep, rocky area. So I don't get very much brush and stuff. A lot of mine are rock cubbies, and they're probably only that big, and they're small. So when the cat looks at it, you know, it's kind of more of a natural opening, like a rabbit would be in there, or a pack rat or something like that. Yeah, I think
those cages, you know, I trapped an Brush that cage up. They go right on
Yeah. Cats aren't scared.
that. No, they're not.
You get the right smell, they'll commit. That's just the way it is.
I made some wooden cubbies out of lumber with the 220 conifer. Of course, I got to cover with brush like this to hide it. That seems to work too. It's easy for me to carry on the sled.
The reason I kind of keep my cubbies low is, I want them to put their head, when they're stepping to smell, I want them to kind of put their head down to look in there. If it's open like this, they can see, you know what I mean? So if you kind of keep them low, about that high off the ground, just lower than probably the back of their back. So they have to step to look in there, is usually how I set them up.
Try and keep that sides really blocked in so they can't get up peek at it from any angle but the front.
Yeah.
So are those high maintenance where if you get snow, it covers the entrance and then you have to come dig it out all the time?
See, I get snow down there where I do a lot of my bobcat. 4 inches of snow, those traps, those 4-coil number 3s will still catch. And it's easy, they're exposed. You walk by them and you're gone, There's nothing to it. You're not bedding them, they're exposed. They lay right on top of the ground. All you got to do is get them to commit to make the one step.
Well, snow's an issue where I live. We get 4 to 6 feet of snow. In fact, our fences are always covered.
Yep.
And so that, digging out the snow is always an issue.
Yeah, I deal with that there in McCall. We get a lot of snow, and I have bobcat sets out on my wolf line, and you're doing this all freaking day, all day. I'd rather drop elevation where I can go put out 100 traps, and instead of just 20, and that's going to take me all day to unbury and keep them active. I'm already trying to keep my wolf traps active, from freezing, so. It's just one less thing that I can drop and go catch fur and wait for the wolves to come. So.
Do you use electronic speakers at all?
Nope. Nope. I don't use anything just like that. Yeah. I think the main thing is just to make sure when you go up these draws to make sure they're covered. You set one on the left-hand side, that cat might not go on that side. He might just stay on the same line on the right-hand side of the draw instead of the left. Another thing I've noticed, like in the weather, the north sides, how they're unthawed, or, usually have a bunch of snow, and the south sides are usually unthawed. When you're on your line, I always look for the sides that are unthawed. That's where I'll put my stuff. I'll never put stuff on the north side, just because I like the moonlight shining off my attractors at night. You put them on the dark side, the moon usually doesn't hit your retractor to make the flash. So I always put them on the south side, so when the moon comes through, it's getting flash. Just another little thing that I've done over the years, and I put them on the north side, and where it's cold and hardly any sun. Seems like you'll get a few, but I get more on the sunny side where the cats are going to stay and be warm.
You said something about wolves. This guy was saying that he's seen wolves chew through an 1/8-inch piece of cable, and I thought of that because those are fox drags, aren't they? They're kind of like fox drags.
Yep. I don't have any wolves on my bobcat line.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking that you get a coyote in there.
But I have held mountain lions with a 7x7 cable.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really?
Yep.
Yep, I was there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the 7x7 cable will hold a mountain lion.
Yep.
Every year I release a couple.
Yeah, because this friend of mine said he's had coyotes straighten those drags out. So, like one of the hooks, I didn't know they were that strong to do that. But
I've never had one bend out, and I've had elk get in them and drag them, and then it get caught up, and then they'll pull out. So, and I've never seen really one of those actually bend out. I've caught wolves with those drags accidentally, in my coyote sets and stuff like that. So,
the same drags I use.
Usually when you have 8 foot of cable, they hit the first tree, they make a loop, and the next thing they know, they're this tight to the tree. Not very unless you got an open trail, with running snares or something. But usually when you get them in a foothold, and the first time they get caught up on a brush or anything, they start doing circles. Next thing you know, they're balled up like this. That cable will be just super, super tight around any bush. I mean, the smallest bush is like that, just wrapped up, just tight as could be. But yeah,
That's the way to go. All that chain is just extra weight. I never thought of
that's
that.
the way I run. That's why I run cable. You
That's a
know,
good
I
idea.
do a lot of hiking up all these draws after these cats. You know, I used to have chain and all this stuff, and I'm just killing myself. You know, and then after 19 years, I'm like, okay, I'm going lighter and lighter, and then pretty soon that's what I ended up with. That's how I run all my bobcat sets.
You're using the
Like
same-
I wouldn't use that setup for a wool, for stuff
What
like
about coyote?
coyote. It'll hold a coyote.
Do you use that on
Nope. No, I usually use ground anchors where I'm kayaking. It's totally different from each line that I run. I run, the wolf, is in the mountains and have good dirt. Coyotes, usually farmers' fields, stuff like that. My bobcats are straight up and down in all rocks. And the reason they're there is because those dogs can't touch them in the rocks. If you want to find cats, look for rocks. Lots of rocks.
It's
Yep.
steep.
Like all my 90% of my traps is all rock. I'm setting my traps on top of flat rocks. I don't got dirt where I trap.
You worried about putting anything on top of your pans, like a cover or anything? Or you
Nope.
just run straight?
I run them straight just like that. And then, I've had good luck with it that way. You set them up right, you're going to get a full pad. That's just the way it is. If you're getting misses, it's because you're not setting up to their steps correctly. If you're getting a bad miss, it's definitely because your traps aren't spread, or the step and stick to the trap is too close or too far apart.
Now, do you offset your trap one side or the other from the entrance, or?
Nope,
just
I
the way you set
always
it?
put it dead center
Right in the center.
with sticks on both sides. So
Yeah.
either way, if they come up to it,
Yeah.
left foot or right foot, they're going to get caught.
So you've got to narrow down quite a bit. So.
And don't be afraid to narrow the cats down. Like on these big, long rock edges, if you look, you'll see where like pat rack and bobcats, you'll see if you get down, you can see their trails run those rock walls. Just put a blind set in there. No bait, no nothing. I catch a lot on blind sets. Quite a few on blind sets.
And you use a stepping stick for blind sets?
Yep. Yep. Just on their trail, set it over a stick or a sharp rock. I try not to put nothing big in front of the trap because I don't want them to step on my stepping stick. Kind of use something kind of sharp, or like I use that shell rock. When it breaks off, it's kind of like a razor blade. I usually stick those in front of my trap and then a couple on the back, so they won't step on. They don't like to step on anything sharp. So. But yeah, the main thing I can say is make sure all your lure and everything is inside the cubby, at least a foot from your trap. So they have to put their nose in there they have to make that step.
You think you can put the herd on the bobcats and hurt the population?
Do I?
Yeah.
No, not when I release 4 or 5 on my cat line every single year.
You release the females.
Yes, I do. I have a couple females that I usually keep, and that's just for me for next season. I make my lure and my glands with it. The rest, like 90% of my cats are all males. So I catch quite a few kittens. You can pretty much just, but you gotta let the babies go, you guys. If you want to keep the population for the next person trapping or the next kid, or don't be greedy. I mean, it's kind of hard when you're like, oh, I just let a $200 cat go, that cat, would probably $200, but you want to trap next year?
$200, or is it 700 or 8?
Right.
1,000.
Yep.
Keep giving your cats.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you ever experimented with fish as a bait or a lure?
Nope.
Being a cat and like the fish.
I usually only use fish for the martin.
Okay.
tuna and fish and stuff like that. That's what I'll use for martin. Beaver, I really don't use much bait for my bobcats. It's all mainly just lure and smells. That's all it is. You know, I have I usually have turds with me. I like to, put some turds by the, in front of the trap. It just makes them more comfortable. But
I actually bought some of that tinsel this year. I haven't had a chance to use it, but how effectiveness do you think that accounts for your catches? And how far out do you think that it's effective?
well, I've followed their tracks back at least a quarter of a mile across the draw and all the way back up to the ridge. And I've seen their butt prints in the snow where they've sat there and they have watched my stuff for I don't know how long. And I've seen them, their tracks all the way straight to my set. Attractors, you gotta have attractors. Cats are like a little tiny kid. The shinier and the most attractive you can get, the better.
Feathers?
I use no feathers. If anything, I get cotton balls and I'll pull them apart and I'll throw them inside there so it kind of looks like, rabbit fur or something like that. Or I'll grab some grass and I'll make like a bird's nest and I'll sit it in the back of the cubby with a cotton ball in the middle. So it looks like there's an egg inside of a nest. I do a lot of that.
I gather up all my mice nests when I find them. Save it for just similar things like that.
Yep.
There's a lot of mice.
So yeah, you can up your catches if you're burying your traps. A dog's gonna come check that out, but most of the time, I've noticed a lot of times when I have my bobcat sets out, a lot of the dogs will come up and look at it, but they won't step on it because they see the trap. They're too smart for it. Cats, they're very, very easy to catch, but you gotta find where they're at. That's the main thing.
You catch a lot of foxes in your cat lines?
Every once in a while I'll get a fox, jump in it, but not very often. I think I caught maybe 2 foxes in the last, 10 years in my bobcat sets. There's just not a lot of dogs down there where down where I trap. So. But yeah, that's the way I roll out of my truck. Lightweight, all put together. I can throw 5 in my bag, walk up there, and I can throw five sets out in that draw and be out of there. Well, my partner's over there putting everything together, and I'll be gone.
How do you dispatch your cat?
I use a catch pole on all of my cats. I don't put a hole in any of my hides if I can help it. Wolves, different thing, but everything else is a snare pole. Yep.
You said pan tension on your traps?
No, I have no pan tension on my bobcat sets. I want them hair triggered. As soon as they touch it, I want them to jump out and grab you. During bobcat season, everything's open. So why wouldn't you want to try to catch everything? I want to catch. I caught raccoons and pack rats, but that's all right with me. That's just more fur in my shed. But yeah, no pan tension on for bobcats. Unless you're out somewhere like, you're on private property or something like that. Yeah, you probably want some pan tension so you're not catching, someone's cat or, stuff like that. You got to kind of pay attention to that kind of stuff. But any more questions?
So you don't use a snowmobile or an ATV or anything like that?
I have snowmobile.
Oh, you have snowmobile?
Oh yeah. Yep, I snowmobile every 3 days out to my wolf line. I've went through a couple sleds already this year. It's hard going.
What's the biggest bobcat you've got?
Ooh.
50 inches, 41 pounds.
What's the most you got in the season?
The most I've gotten a season, 26.
When you're having trouble, you're talking about dropping down where there's less snow, stuff like that. That's something I run into. Sometimes you got good snow conditions, stuff like that for finding cats. Sometimes you don't, right?
Right.
So when you have those times when it's just hard to find cat sign, do you have a method that you go about as far as doing sets? Do you not set if you don't have good sign?
On most of my line, when it does snow, I'm super happy because it only snows a few times down there, and you got to be, as soon as that snow stops, you got to be out there in those draws and walking for miles. And as soon as I find sign, I know that cat's there, and that cat's going to come back into that same spot, that same drainage. Set on track. Feel like on the rock walls, I'll look for like little mound up spots, because a lot of times those cats will poop in certain spots along those edges, and you won't see their turds. So a lot of people will walk right by them because a lot of times those cats will bury and you won't see them. So a lot of times I see people walk right by cat sign that I'm seeing that they don't actually realize that cat's actually pooping there.
So that's just kind of a small mound and just light snow or something like that.
Yep.
You just investigate a little bit further to confirm it? Or?
Well, the problem I have is I don't really have to do that much investigation. I've been trapped in the same line for 19 years. 19 years, I got the same cubbies that I've set the same trap in for 19 years that's produced cats every single year. And that's just because I let those cats go. Those cats that I let go, I'll probably catch them not the next year, but the year after. And I believe when you release a cat, it's going to smarten it up a little bit. That cat, most likely you're going to catch in a blind set. If you catch a big old bog or a small cat in a cubby and release it, most likely that cat's going to smarten up a little bit. Most likely you're going to catch that one in a couple of years in a blind set. That's what I've noticed on my line anyway. So, I caught one that had a part of an ear gone, and 2 years later I caught it, and I caught it in a blind set. It never went back to a cubby.
You ever use anything? I know you talked about kind of making a bird nest looking thing. Do you ever use bleached out bones, any other kind of visual attractant like that?
Not very many bones. I don't carry much any of that kind of stuff. Mainly it's just cotton balls. Cotton balls are my friend. Cotton ball and my tinsel. My favorite tinsel, gold and silver. That's all I use is gold and silver tinsel.
Yeah, it's legal to use bones, but like rabbit fur would be great, but it's not legal, right?
Right.
They use wool.
Yeah, you can't use feathers. You can't use.
Yeah, I asked about wool, and they said you can't eat in Idaho. You can't use wool if it's exposed. It's part of an animal.
Yep.
I've been using for years.
It's got to
You
be.
take that.
Yeah, it's
And
gotta
the
be-
one reason I went away from baits is just because, you put a bait in there. Every fish and game officer is different. If your cubbies up here and they're walking up to it and they can actually see into it, you're most likely going to get exposed bait. But if you get up on top of it, well, now you can't see it. So there's I don't use a lot of bait just because of that. I don't want any liquid is not a bait. You can throw all the glands, all the pee, all of that you want anywhere you want, and never have to worry about it. You put a big old chunk of beaver in there, and a pack rat comes and pulls that thing off there, and the fish and game comes by. Well, now you gotta, explain your story.
Mm-hmm.
So. But yeah, that's pretty much how I do my sets.
You ever have problems? It's just something I'd noticed is that, with a coyote set, for example, from a distance or even up close, you can't really see it, right? Typically don't have people mess with it. Cat sets, the attractors, stuff like that, people can see it.
Yep.
And I don't know, you ever have issues with people messing with your stuff or
Yep.
had to deal with
Every year.
it? Every year.
Every year. Yeah, I got a lot of game cameras out now.
I started doing something similar after I've had problems with it, is putting cameras on stuff.
Every
so.
year I have 2 or 3 traps come up missing. Or I'll have somebody come in, another trapper, will come in, he'll run across my set, he'll throw a rock or stick in there and, try to claim that, what it is, but irritating, yes.
The ones I hate are the ones that come by and shoot it thinking they're doing me a favor.
Mm-hmm.
Not with the 12 gauge. They're not doing me a favor.
I've had that happen.
Yep.
Mostly if you're driving down the road, and you see a cat bouncing, 300 yards up into the draw, people seem to stop and.
Something I'd say about people messing with traps. So the first time it happened to me, I didn't report it. Ever since then I have, because it helps everybody else who's a trapper, right? You got somebody that's going through an area messing with crap, let Fish and Game know about it, because they might get another phone call from somebody else in that same area, and that's the only way they're ever going to do anything about it. Because if I come up, I can tell you, listen, I can tell you what this guy's boot size is, I can tell you roughly what kind of truck he was driving, I can tell you all this stuff that I saw in the snow. It doesn't help them until these guys are just repeat offenders, and then maybe some point they can do something about it.
That's a good point.
But if you're just, one person calling, they've either, I think, lost this year the ability to really look at cell phone records closely and stuff, unless they've got something really hard to go off of. So I would just say to everybody, if somebody messes with the traps, let Fish and Game know about it, because if this person keeps doing it, they might actually be able to do something.
Yeah, like a couple of years ago, I had problems with people night lighting on my cats. And I had a couple cats come up missing. They got shot, blood pile. You can see where they were caught. I'm in my camper sleeping, and they're out there killing my shit,
They're taking it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, straight up, just take it. Blood pile, you can see their tracks, everything. You turn in, I've called the fishing game several times.
Yeah.
They started doing night checks and trying to help me out, so.
Yeah. I trap behind lock gates, and every year someone comes by and cuts my locks off and goes on in and does their thing. So I did the same thing, set up some cameras. Nobody's got a lock off since I put a camera up. But eventually they will.
Yeah. So yeah, I run Valley County Trappers up in McCall. I have a Facebook, and I had some YouTube channels on there. You're more than welcome to go on there, check them out. Probably a little more specific how I do stuff. Not the best speaker, so.
Well, I live not too far from you. I'll try to check it out. You do the animal damage control too? Is that
Yep. Yeah, I got a couple wolf lines actually right now that are on big ranches. Yeah, I do. I help a lot of the farmers out around McCall. A lot of the big ones, Simplots and all the big companies.
They got a ranch out there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Simplot's on a big portion of Valley County.
Yeah, there's a lot of wealthy. What about Payette Lake right there? Is it trap, decent place to trap?
Yep.
Payette Lake?
Yep.
It's up on the north and the west or the east side.
Mm-hmm.
Waters. I don't know. There's probably a rock. I've been there, but I guess there's some rocks around there too.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some cats in there.
Yep.
And you get the little pig just north of there too. What's that they call the meanders that runs through there?
Yeah.
A lot of wealthy people in that area.
See, and that's just it. I have to pay attention to who I talk to and where I live.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many people I don't want around. So.
I'm in Adams County, so there's a lot of wealthy ranchers there, but different class of what's in the fall.
Yep.
Cool.
Different kind of cold down here.
Yeah.
I can stand in the snow, but this wind is like freaking straight to your bones.
Yeah.
Makes you shiver.
Blast chiller.
Mm-hmm. Counts.
Good stuff, man. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good information. Appreciate it.
If you guys have anything, come talk to me or whatever. So.
Of course, pick your brain a little bit more.